From today, this is the first rise in university tuition fees in England and Wales since 2017. Undergraduate fees have increased by £285, bringing the annual cost to £9,535. At a glance, it looks modest, but when viewed in context, in the middle of a deepening cost of living crisis, falling maintenance support in real terms, a Labour government that once pledged to abolish fees altogether, this rise is politically, socially and morally loaded. The rise is officially in line with inflation. Maintenance loans have also gone up slightly. Students living away from home outside London can now borrow up to £10,544, an increase of just over £300. That sounds helpful until you remember that average rent in many university cities now exceeds £8,000 a year, and in London a student accommodation averages a student room averages £13,600, and once rent is paid, many students are left with virtually nothing for food, books or travel. According to HEPI and Unipol, 68% of full-time students now work during term time. Compare that to 45% just 3 years ago. We're drifting from education as a full-time intellectual pursuit to education as a costly endurance test, and Keir Starmer's tuition fee U-turn is as painful as it is predictable. In his leadership campaign he promised to abolish them. Now his government presides over their rise. His rationale that money must instead go to the NHS has a surface plausibility, but it sidesteps the reality that a healthy NHS needs well-trained graduates. A healthy NHS needs far less burdensome bureaucracy. Investment in higher education is not the enemy of public services, it is the foundation of public services. Laura Trott, the Conservatives' shadow education secretary, has accused Labour of declaring war on students. It's hyperbole, of course, but it's not wholly unfair. Starmer's decision is not merely economic, it is symbolic. It signals the final death of Corbyn-era idealism. The politics of hope has yielded to the politics of accountancy. Universities themselves are teetering. Over 40% are expected to run a deficit by next summer. A decade-long freeze in tuition fees and a sharp drop in international students, especially due to visa restrictions and Home Office hostility, has eroded financial stability. For years, English universities have plugged funding gaps with full fee-paying international students. That model has now broken down because of the absurdity of the attack on migrant students. The irony is rich. A country that prides itself on world-class education has made its universities financially dependent on overseas applicants and then demonises the very migrants who sustain it. Let's step into the shoes of a typical student starting this autumn. They will likely graduate with over £53,000 in debt. Under the new Plan 5 loan terms, they will then begin paying repayments at a lower income threshold, but for a longer period of 40 years. Money-saving expert Martin Lewis estimates this change will cost lower and middle earners thousands more over their lifetime. It's a policy that rewards the wealthiest who repay in full quickly, while penalising graduates on modest incomes. And let's not forget the intangible cost of social mobility. The Sutton Trust has shown that only 1/5 of graduates who were on free school meals end up in the top 20% of earners. By contrast, nearly half of those from private schools do. And yet, we're asking the poorest students to carry the heaviest financial burdens. The rise was not inevitable. Universities UK estimated that if funding per student had kept pace with inflation, the figure should be closer to £12,000 per year. So a mixed model, tuition, modest fee rises and targeted public investment could have protected standards without overloading costs onto students. Grants for low-income students could have been restored. Visa rules could have been stabilised. The funding shortfall could have been treated as a national priority rather than a student problem. But this fee rise, maybe it seems inevitable. It's not as catastrophic on its own, but it is emblematic of a deeper malaise, a university system reliant on debt, a political class that trades aspiration for expediency, a government that's campaigned on cancelling fees and now pretends that inflation justifies abandoning principle. Higher education should be a ladder of opportunity, not a trapdoor of lifelong debt. Today's rise is another rung broken. In Dante's Purgatorio, I was talking about this yesterday, souls climb a mountain through fire and hardship towards eventual salvation. British students, too, are climbing, but their mountain seems to get steeper. The flames burn longer, and the promise of relief is starting to look like some sort of mirage.